everybody. Welcome to the March 25th, 2022 edition of News from the Front Lines of Business from DW Huff Consulting. All right, so this week we survived another one. Our fun with numbers not so fun this week. The EF3 storm that tornado hit Arabi this past Tuesday night. I'm sure I've already seen it on the news, but it's been pretty bad. We unfortunately had a fatality of a young man, very well known locally here, and his dog too. So they had this very sad story of how they kind of ripped through that section of Arabi pretty quickly and violently, and a lot of people still bouncing back from that. But I guess the good news is we see all the recovery efforts and the volunteers helping out with the cleanup, and many people from all over the state have been pitching in and helping, and it's been that part of the ordeal has been kind of uplifting. So anyway, so back to the tax and accounting stuff here. So I guess we'll have another presidential disaster area to deal with here in St. Bernard and parts of New Orleans as well. However, we have not seen an official notification yet, but we expect that's going to be the case because the president and all the politicians seem to be on board with issuing it. Just hasn't come out yet. And going back to our disaster before that, so it seems like we're talking about this way too much lately, but going back to the Hurricane Ida stuff, so we know that is a presidential declared disaster, same as last time we discussed it on the podcast. But what we don't see is the differentiation of a qualified as opposed to the non-qualified variety, where you get a more favorable tax treatment. So that's not been updated yet. So we'll keep you posted. I guess some good news on the IRS side of things that we see. They've been kind of grilling the commissioner and some of the higher up officials on the problems that have been taking place with slow filing of documents and things of that nature. And there has been some more hiring, and I linked the article there from Tax Advisor. That seems to imply that there's an expectation here that they're going to be caught up with all the backlog by the end of this year. So it's a pretty big task considering the things that are coming in that are current filings. But they seem to have a plan in place to keep up with the new stuff as well as catch up on the old stuff, which is no small number. So read that, check that out, get a chance. All right, so I guess now we're done with all the updates. We'll talk a little bit about, as usual, discussions that we have with our clients. As we do in the tax work, there's a lot of interesting discussions lately, so I try to share as much as I can with y'all. But as is now, we've talked a lot about the whole deal with real estate investing and how those things go up in value and the refi till you die. But this discussion came up again with a client. So we got corporation, C corporation. So as we know, the C corporation doesn't have the flow through taxation. So when you have retained earnings inside the C corporation, there are ways to take that money and invest it in other things and borrow it and take it out as a dividend, which gets a tax favored treatment. So there's some kind of, I guess, offshoots of the refi to your die conversation, but going back to the real estate, so that's come up again too. So we saw a deal where that crossed my desk, a pretty highly appreciated property from a person out in California. They had paid this balance on this thing down to they've been holding for a number of years, but the balance remaining on the mortgage was somewhere around $40,000. Property was worth about $900,000. So in this case here, a couple needed a little bit of money, didn't want to tap into retirement plans and do other things of that nature that would have generated some taxable income. They refinanced their property that was pretty close to being paid off. It's a rental property, it's making money, so it's no problem, but they refied for approximately $400,000, which they were able to use for other things. The rent's going to cover the payment on it on this particular deal, so it's a kind of a smart decision, easy way to cash out on something that has a lot of equity. So I'll mention that again, as well as the C corporation. When you don't have the flow through taxation of all the income, there's ways to manage that in a tax favored way as well. So keep those things in mind, and not, I guess when you're setting up a new business, that just seems like there's almost like a knee-jerk reaction where you automatically go out and form an S corporation so that you can get flow through taxation, and that's not always the case. So spend some time analyzing that before you actually pull a trigger on those tax elections. So that was that discussion. Another discussion came up regarding opportunity zones. So to recap that, there are certain zones, and it's crazy how it works out. In my area, where my office is, I am not in an opportunity zone, but 50 yards away, across the highway from my house, from my office, is a qualified opportunity zone. So if I was renting my office out on that side of the street, I'd be able to qualify for this favorable tax treatment. And what it involves is you invest in ventures that are located in these zones, you can avoid some capital gains on your investment if you hold it for 10 years. So up until the end of last year, there were some even more favorable treatments that kind of have now kind of sunset. But the one still remains is that capital gain exclusion if you hold it for 10 years. So there are funds out there. So there's one particular client had found a mutual fund basically that invests in qualified opportunity zone type projects, and we'll see how that goes. So like I said, end of the day, you still got to make sure the investment makes sense. So don't let the tax tail wag the dog, but I just want to make sure that everybody knew that there are still some opportunities available for some tax savings if you choose to invest in one of these qualified zones. So talk to us about that. It's pretty could be a pretty good deal, but now it's strictly the capital gains from the project itself. So I guess it becomes more important now to analyze the actual investment, whereas before there was some deferral of gains that you could have rolled into it. A few reasons why I guess the return on an investment was somewhat less important under the old opportunities, but still got the capital gain possibility, so keep that in mind. So with that, I guess my closing thought for the week here is this memento mori. Kind of, I guess one of my Stoic philosophers, and that concept comes up a lot, and I guess how you kind of cherish each day and kind of realize how short time can be, as we see over and over again with different disasters and diseases and everything. Things can be going along pretty well, and all of a sudden they're not. So enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you out here again next week with some more news.